Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 6, 2009, the Chair recognizes the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Meek, for half the remaining time until midnight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to come before the House, and as you know, I'm no stranger to the floor when it comes down to addressing the House about issues that are not only facing the state of Florida, but also facing the country. You know that we have had a number of incidents that have taken place in the Gulf in recent years, Hurricane Katrina and other storms like it, and now we have a threat to not only our environment but also the economy of the Gulf states. Tonight I come to address some of the issues that are facing the state of Florida right now. Everyone knows of the effects of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. Also understand what they see on the news every night of not only environmentalists but also scientists and responders to the incident and what they're doing. America is being educated on what's going on, and water as deep as 5,000 feet. But I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, I just recently left the Gulf Coast area. I had an opportunity in my own state to be in Tampa, and then moving on up to Panama City and the cities in between Panama City and Pensacola. Had the opportunity to meet with some good Floridians and picked up some firsthand ideas on what we can do to be able to stabilize not only the economy but also do away with some of the rumors that are out there that's affecting the overall economic outlook for that particular area. I also, after leaving Pensacola, I went to the command center there in Mobile, Alabama, and had an opportunity to meet with some of the coordinators that are there on behalf of the Coast Guard, also coordinators for the state of Florida, coordinators also for the recovery effort as it relates to oil companies. I just want to say from the outset, Mr. Speaker, that those that are responsible for this spill, need it be BP or Halliburton or the number of other companies that have been named, I guarantee you this: that response will not go without them paying. And I think it's very, very important that everyone on this House floor understands that many people have been affected due to the lack of regulation, need to be from the regulatory agency, not doing what they should do. And I know that this Congress will find out more about what did happen and did not happen and the mismanagement that took place, but also as it relates to BP, Halliburton, and others' responsibility of what they were supposed to do to make sure that this did not happen. Because they were irresponsible, we have individuals that work paycheck by paycheck. Some individuals work cash jobs. Some families have been fishing there in the Gulf for a very long time, and they have been affected. Where I talked to fishermen in Panama City, and I've also talked to fishermen in Pensacola and those that are concerned about the perception that's out there. The fact that we do not have oil on the beaches in Florida, that we don't have oil within the Florida waters in Florida, but somehow, some way, the perception has been that there's oil on the beach. And I can tell you that it's affected the economy of those communities. And I just want to share with the members that it's very important that we not only get out accurate information, but we use every tool we can. And meeting with those fishermen in Panama City, where their boats were there in the slips, they're usually out on the water catching fish, but people have canceled their reservations because they feel that the water is unsafe to fish in. That is not the case. That's some of the things that I'm going to talk about here today. These communities are already hit, and I want to make sure that Americans understand that they can come to Florida and they can vacation there, and they should not cancel their reservations, because it will be affecting the economy not only in Florida but for individuals that work hard every day, that were already on their knees as it relates to an economic slowdown that we're experiencing right now. Now to see fishermen that were saying that they had their books filled all through the snapper season, to only find that many individuals are canceling. Corporations that planned retreats down in the Panhandle area from Apalachicola right on up to Escambia County decided to cancel their reservations. So maybe we can do away with some of the myths that's out there. This is not just about fishermen. This is about the hotel industry. This is about the tourism industry in Florida. That whole our economy our economy of being the #1 spot in creating jobs. I have some charts here, Mr. Speaker, that talks about the $65 billion that tourism generate in the state of Florida. And I can tell you just recreational saltwater fishing impacts Florida economy about over $5 billion, over 50,000 jobs. And I think it's very, very important that everyone understands that the economy in Florida is already some 11.3 and above as it relates to unemployment. Some of the communities that are involved, and I'll talk about it as we move along, of the unemployment rates that are there, and people that feel that they feel sorry for those individuals that are impacted. I can tell you can do something about it. You can go down to that area and enjoy yourself, and I think it's important, and come down to Florida. I want to also just share a few other statistical data that I have here. Boating impacts Florida's economy, some $18 billion, over 220-something jobs. The Florida average is 35 million, and fishing average 35 million fishing trips per year. And unfortunately, that industry is hurting, as I described earlier. I think that a number of folks need to understand that many of these fishing families that are along that coastline, I think they're too small to fail. We talk about they're too big to fail when we look at the financial industry. These individuals are the reason why hotel rooms are filled there, and the reason why the restaurants have individuals that are walking in and out of them, and the reason why people come to that neck of the woods. And I think it's important that everyone understands what we're facing here. These are some statistical data that I've already mentioned here, but I think it's important that everyone understands that in Florida we're trying to do everything we can. I met with the hotel owner that said that she has over 40 rooms but only 7 reservations. She has a staff that's over 35 individuals, but I know that she's going to have to lay some folks off. That's not because of any act against our country, but that's an act of environmental perception that the beaches in Panama City have oil on them, and that folks can't come down and enjoy themselves. When I met with them, I said, listen, I've already filed legislation with Senator Bill Nelson over in the Senate, called for a moratorium until we figure out how we can make these rigs safe, and to make sure that there's a moratorium on expansion of offshore oil drilling off the coast of Florida and in the Gulf of Mexico. That's already filed. Legislation that's already filed was Russ Holt, the congressman here, and a companion bill over in the Senate, moving the liability cap up to make sure that these oil companies do not get off the hook for the kind of misery that they have put upon these individuals who just wanted to work every day. I shared with them what the SBA is providing for small businesses, but I can tell you in the final analysis, Mr. Speaker, they said, listen, Kendrick, if you can go back to Congress and let folk know that they can come down here, that we're open for business, and that we're ready to receive them, that will help us more than everything that you just mentioned. Everything that you just mentioned will be for the future, but for not for right now. They have mortgages to meet. They can't take a second on their home because they've already taken that second mortgage on their home. They don't have the money to be able to continue to make that payment for the slip that they're covering. They have there at the marina. They have bills that they have to meet. And I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it's important. As a member of Congress, that's the least that I can do, to come to the floor tonight, stand up on behalf of those individuals that need somebody to stand up on their behalf. I just want to say these are some of the guys that I met with there in Panama City. As you can see, as a fisherman myself, I get excited just looking at this picture, Mr. Speaker. I'm looking at some king mackerel and grouper and redfish, and I even see a grunt in there and a parrotfish. These are the fishermen that are out there, some of the guys that I met with that are ready to go to work, but people are canceling on them and saying that there's oil in the water. There's not oil in the water. I ask people to please hold in strong consideration, and these pictures were just taken last week, so I'm not showing you a picture from some website that was taken 6 months ago. This is last week. They wanted to take this picture to let folks know that they can come down to fish, ready, set, go, and clean, and you know, stay a couple of days and enjoy yourself. It's a seasonal community along this Gulf Coast area, especially along the panhandle of Florida. They only have like 100, 120 days. They have the most fluctual economy in the state of Florida because it's seasonal, and I think it's very, very important that we support these individuals. These individuals are affected because of the lack of responsibility of those that are responsible for oil that's gushing out in the bottom of the Gulf right now. Now, I think it's important when we look at leadership that we understand that the economy is going to be affected time after time again when individuals are irresponsible. One, by not standing up as leaders when they're supposed to stand up as leaders and to be consistent. Two, turning their back and not paying attention to the details. And I will go back to that in a little in the future, but I think it's important. I'm going to bring that fishing picture back up again because I'm a fisherman and I kind of like it. Visit Florida is a website that you can go to. I think it's very, very important that everyone understands that you can go to this website, get accurate information, and on the website you have key points, key areas where you can click on, and it can let you know Twitter updates on what's going on that particular beach in that part of Florida, on Visit Florida, right on the website. I think it's important that you understand that coming to Florida for many individuals that are hit by hard times, you don't have the opportunity to get on a plane and fly overseas. It'll be a lot cheaper to come down. Now, here's where the rubber meets the road. I'm going to spend a little time on this map here, Mr. Speaker, because I think it's important. When we look at our economy, it's not only the Florida economy, it's the U.S. economy. This is the Deepwater Horizons project right there. That's where the incident took place. This map is updated as of 6 o'clock today by NOAA, and I think it's important and that you understand that this red line here is the red line of the area that is shut off. This has very little to do with the area that I'm talking about. From Apalachicola over to Pensacola, you can see this little black line here are the Florida waters that Florida has jurisdiction over, where there's a proposal, Mr. Speaker, to call a special session to put in a state constitution calling for no oil drilling around the state of Florida. And as it relates to our constitution, that will be a good move, because what's happening right now, our economy is being affected and will be affected, and will not have the resources that we need to be able to deal with schools, health care, a number of other issues that the state has to take responsibility for. I'm just doing my part, Mr. Speaker, not only filing bills, but also giving voice to those individuals that I met with that are saying, listen, if you do everything that you could do to help us, it really would help us be able to bounce back, and that's what we're trying to do here this evening. This area right here is the area that was shut down as of 6 p.m. today. This is only 19% of the Gulf, and this is very, very, very deep water. The only kind of fishing going on out there is tuna fishing. All of this area here, the fish that you saw that I put up in the chart before that are caught in this area. Where these boats are going out are right here. So it has nothing to do with this. And believe me, the Department of Health will let you know that these areas are shut down and that they're not open for business or open for fishing. I know there was some rumor, well, it wasn't a rumor, it's fact that some tar balls were found down by the Florida Keys. As you know, that's being analyzed. Being a Florida guy myself, I can tell you that, you get a little tar every now and then. It may not be from the Deepwater Horizons project. Who knows? But we don't want hysteria, going throughout, saying, "Oh my goodness, there's oil down in the Gulf in the Keys now." We don't know that as a fact, and I think it's very important that we understand that. And I can tell you one thing: as much as I fought against offshore oil drilling in the state of Florida, or around the state of Florida, I can tell you that I'm just as concerned as some, but it's not for alarm. That beach is still open. This little chart here is just in case folks don't want to take my word for it. You can go on to Grand Panama Beach Rentals.com. That's Grand Panama Beach Rentals.com. This is a webcam, just to let you know that the beach is open and ready, set, go for visitors. And I think that's something that's very, very important that folks need to understand. Now, one thing to get to the bread and butter here, Mr. Speaker, I think it's important. You've been hearing a lot about how we're trying to shut this oil down, how the Coast Guard is a part of that, the EPA, the BP, and a number of other agencies. But I can tell you where the rubber meets the road. This Apalachicola area all the way to Escambia County, you have the counties that are already affected by unemployment. Wakulla County is 7.2% unemployment. Gaston County, that's also have individuals that are living up into this area here in the Panhandle, we call Northwest Florida, that are affected by 9.6 unemployment. Liberty County, 5.3 unemployment. Franklin County, 7.10 unemployment. Gulf County, 9.8 unemployment. Calhoun County, 8.2 unemployment. Jackson County is 7.2 unemployment. And Bay County is 8.9 unemployment. And Washington County, that's also up here in the Panhandle area, is 9.6 unemployment. Holmes County, 7.2 unemployment. Walton County, 6.8 unemployment. Okaloosa County, 7.2 unemployment. Santa Rosa County, 9.4 unemployment. And Escambia County, which is better known as Pensacola, is 9.8 unemployment. I say all of that, ladies and gentlemen, because if we don't kill this whole issue that we have oil on the beaches in Florida, those unemployment numbers that I just mentioned are going to get higher. That's not fiction, that's fact. And I think it's important that we understand that even though BP and Halliburton and all these other companies that took advantage of what they were supposed to do and put these individuals in a financial situation that they're not going to even be able to provide for their families, I want those families to know that we're going to do everything we can, at least I am as a member of Congress, to make sure that these individuals pay. Now, that's not going to put any food on the table, but not right now. But I tell you one thing, that if we don't do our part as individuals that are not living in the area that I just mentioned, to make sure that we do everything we can to support those Floridians and also those Americans, then shame on us. We need to be able to stand up for them. I think it's also important to understand, we talk about this issue of offshore oil drilling. It's okay to be against it now. Now you have oil in the Gulf. I understand Louisiana, especially in New Orleans, there's a judge that's handling all of the court orders that are coming through. BP is trying to move that hearing to Houston. I wonder why. I guess for a more favorable kind of judge or environment, so that they will, can have that as the home base, so that they can be able to have influence over, need it be the jury pool or what have you. We need to pay very close attention to what's happening. People are scared. People are concerned. Some people may be looking at it as a vacation situation. We have folks that I just mentioned and trying to give some representation to here tonight that are directly affected. They have children too. They have mortgages too. They have car notes too and boat notes too, and they have to make ends meet. Exxon Valdez is the only thing that we could really point to see the outcome measures of what happened to a community when there was an oil spill. Now, I commend those workers that are out there that's trying to rally up and round up this oil off the top of the water. Commend them for their work. I went by that command center. There are a lot of great Americans that are working to try to save communities. The 2 Coast Guard individuals that I was with, the 2 captains, they both live in Santa Rosa County. They said, Kendrick, I have a vested interest in making sure that this oil doesn't hit the beach. And they're out there working some 20-hour days, making sure that they're able to skim and burn and pick up this oil. But they can't get it all. And it's not on the beaches of Florida. And I think it's very important that everyone understands that. And there are people that are working. But I'll be doggone if we allow these oil executives to come to Congress with $1,200 suits on and say they're not going to answer questions, and folks back home are suffering. I think it's important that everyone understands that this is serious business. The cleanup of this Horizons project is going to take years. Not months, but years. And I think it's important that everyone understands when we look at national security and we talk about green initiatives, that folks don't feel that it's some sort of liberal tree-hugging experience. China's doing it. India's doing it. Why do we have to be third or fourth as a country when we look at alternative fuel sources? We talk about solar power. Folks think that's weak. I look at it as putting folks to work. Maybe diversifying opportunities for these people that I've identified, for those who have been fishing for generation and generation. Maybe they can have some other opportunities. Biomass. I speak as a congressman that has promoted biomass as it relates to our agricultural opportunities that we have, and reusing sugar cane, and reusing some of our crops as it relates to orange peels and others, to turn them into energy, to put power back into the grid, and to talk about solar power constantly as coming from the Sunshine State. I talk about solar power because I see opportunities in it. I see homeowners being able to have the opportunity to save on their electric bill. But it's all about the transition. So if we continue to depend on fossil fuel, especially when it comes down to affecting the economy of so many Gulf state communities along the Gulf states that are affected by this, and the dollars that are being deployed right now, is something that we can prevent in the future. So Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to do my part here tonight. I wanted to make sure that those individuals in this picture here, that I didn't let them down. I told them that I would bring voice to their issue as it relates to, which is my issue too, as it relates to the fact that people are canceling on these guys and gals, I must add. And I just really want to thank Pamela Anderson for supplying this picture also at the Anderson Marina. And they want to go to work, and we need to give them an opportunity to go to work. But as we look at this issue, Mr. Speaker, it's important that as this Congress moves on with the investigation and the legislation that I'm a prime sponsor of and co-sponsor of, that's not enough. Is making sure that we're able to look at this situation as though it is a natural disaster, and the federal response should treat it as though. So we need to make sure that these individuals do not fail, because if we didn't let the banks fail, we should not let these individuals that work every day, pay taxes, and many of whom are veterans in this country, and they're Democrats and they're Republicans and independents. I can tell you one thing about this oil spill. I don't care what your party affiliation is. The bottom line is the bottom line. When 50% of your business is walk-up, and that shuts down to 1 or 2%, and that you have a boat that usually you're taking 6 people out on, and now you're only taking 1, and the other person happens to be your cousin, something is really wrong with that, and it's going to affect these families. So I hope that as we move on, not only with the investigation, because we're an investigative body, but as we look at the effects that this oil spill has brought about, I think that we have to take into account what we're going through right now. My heart goes out to my brethren in Alabama. My heart goes out to those that are in Mississippi. My heart goes out to Louisiana. I think it's very important that folks understand that this issue is just not a Gulf issue. It's a United States issue, and it's a perfect example of why we need to move forth as it relates to alternative fuel and energy in our country, so that we don't have to find ourselves in a situation where individuals are affected by some mishap that took place because individuals were irresponsible and brought about pain and suffering for these individuals that are trying to work and put food on the table for their families. With that, Mr. Speaker, it was an honor to come to the floor. I want to let the membership know that many members of the Florida delegation wanted to be here this evening, but due to the hour, they were not able to be here. The Florida delegation will be meeting tomorrow. When I say the Florida delegation, I'm saying the members of the House and the Senate will come together to talk about this issue of Florida and this Deepwater Horizons oil spill. This directly affects our economy because our economy is all about tourism. I hope in that Florida delegation meeting that there's a continued bipartisan spirit to not only help Florida bounce back, but also as we move forth, as we look at energy as policymakers, that we remember this moment, that we remember that all of Florida is going to be affected by the perception that there's oil in the water. And so it doesn't matter if you represent the West Coast, or you represent southern Florida, or you represent the East Coast of Florida, or you're in the middle of Florida. Every last one of those members, the 27 members of the delegation with 2 senators, I think it's very, very important, including 2 senators. I think it's very, very important that we remember this moment, remember the Floridians that are being affected, and the fact that our economy already, we're on our knees and we're getting ready to get hit in the back of the head again if we don't cap this oil from coming out from the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico, and we don't remember this moment as we move forward as it relates to our national energy policy. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time, sir.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time.